virtual conference. I am Dina Hanoun. I am the current CALMS president. And we definitely miss seeing everybody in person, but we're very glad you all decided to join us virtually. We have a great week ahead for you. The conference runs Monday through Thursday. So make sure to check out our conference website. It's calms2021.org for more info. And now I will turn it over to Stephen McCord, who is our moderator for the day.
Well, thanks. Hi, everybody. Calling in from Davis, California. First, we want to thank all these sponsors that show up here and point out in the middle of the sponsor bingo, and there's a little link at the bottom there. Hopefully you can remember that one. I won't keep this up for long, and maybe we can put it in the chat in a little bit too. But these sponsors contributed extra to this event, and pretty much all the money goes to college scholarships for students. So thanks again for that. Today, let me get to this here. There you go. Today, the topic is dam safety and seismic retrofit. So the conference goes on for 4 days, and this is the topic for the first day. And I just want to mention at the bottom, that's my name, and the CLM is Certified Lake Manager. That's a program that NALMS, our national sort of parent organization, heads up, and I'm part of this effort to revamp that a little bit. So look into the Certified Lake Manager process and try to get certified yourself. So first, just going to set the stage before I introduce the first of the two speakers. A joke for the day. You can share this with your kids afterwards. They'll love it. So two fish swim into a concrete wall. One turns the other and says, "Damn." And you thought that was the best of the joke. And the other one says, "I didn't know fish could talk." So the point of that is dams are a key part of water systems, and that's our topic for today. So it wasn't just a bad joke. Another key point I wanted to make is the difference between a lake and a reservoir. We refer to ourselves as the California Lake Management Society, a large, and there's different definitions for these, but the broadest one that seems to apply in this community is that a lake is a large body of water surrounded by land. Very generic. A reservoir is specific. It's an artificial lake created by a dam. Often the definitions actually say a dam on a creek, but in California we have dams that are off channel, so it kept it more generic. And the key things about that make it different is that it's for human benefits, and you see I put a $sign in there, and then it also changes nature, and there's some risks associated with doing that. And today when we're talking about dam safety, that's a key risk. You put up a dam, you create these benefits, but now you have a risk downstream. And this is what we want to avoid. I got involved with, I met Param, our first speaker, when I was around when the Oroville issue came up in, was it 2017, I think. And this is a concern that folks have everywhere, that a reservoir spillway or dam at some level is going to fail. And these are pictures that were going around on the internet and whatever, and downstream communities were evacuated temporarily. So it was since then it's been very much, remember Oroville, let's not let this happen again. And Param's on the front lines of addressing that with the Department of Water Resources. And our second speaker is going to be talking about a specific issue in a specific area with seismic areas. But I'll get to that next. First, reminders for attendees to sort of set the stage for today. Audio and video should be off, and then you can eat your lunch, and that's what I'll be doing. You can ask questions for the speakers in the chat, and if I believe on your screen, it'll be in the bottom somewhere. You should see a little chat function or icon. Click on that, and I'll be keeping track of that. We have a business meeting tomorrow, so the regular presentation format is Monday through Thursday at this same time, and then Tuesday 4 p.m. if you want to get a little more involved with CALMS, that's the way to do it. It's our one annual business meeting. It's quick and efficient, but it's a good way to get to know the movers and shakers and a lot of people that are on this call. Sponsor bingo, there's the link again, and we'll get that into the chat window. And you may have heard when you logged on that this is being recorded, so think before you act, especially if you're on video. And I have no idea where to find your bathroom. The point of that is we're not all in person, and we miss being in person, not because we can find where the bathrooms are, but just chances to get together and shake hands and share beers and off time and things like that. So thanks for being here online and join us for the week. Okay, so today's speakers, I'll introduce Sarah later, but first off, it's Param. He's with the Department of Water Resources. He's a licensed professional engineer. He's worked over 20 years at California Department of Water Resources in the Division of Safety of Dams in a variety of positions in design, field, and instrumentation branches, and now serves as a senior engineer. He's experienced in reviews related to the enlargement, repair, and alteration of existing dams, as well as new dam construction and repair and maintenance of existing dams. He's currently calling in from Canada, land of many lakes, but he still offered to join us today. So thanks, Param, for being here. And Mark, I'll turn it over to you to present.
Cool. So if you unshare, Stephen, Param should be able to share. He's a co-host.
Got it.
Hello, everybody. This is Param Dhillon. Just want to make sure everybody can see my screen. If you guys can, great. Yeah, my name is Param Dhillon. I work for Division of Safety of Dams, State of California. Like Stephen said, I've been working with the division for over 20 years and have a vast experience with all aspects of dam and dam business. So anyway, thank you, Stephen, for giving me the opportunity to present what we do and perspective of regulatory environment on all the dams within the state of California. So by the way, can anybody guess how many dams we have in the state of California? We can put that in a chat. Just want to see if somebody has a little idea how many dams are under the Division of Safety of Dams jurisdiction. Just a food for thought, put it in there, and we'll discuss that later. So dam safety in California, what does that really mean? What that means is basically we are trying to protect everybody who lives downstream. So basically no loss of life. That is our mission one critical statement. So how it all started. So around January 16, in early 1900s, Lower Otay Dam, that's where it all started. It failed. And not too soon after that, we had another dam failure, which was Sweetwater Dam in 1916. So both of these happened very close to each other. And then this is the present day condition of Lower Otay Dam. This is how it looks. It's still in operation. Sweetwater Dam, this is a picture of during the failure of the Sweetwater Dam. So basically what you're seeing is the right abutment, because the contact was so fractured, the dam was not sitting properly in there. And once the reservoir started filling up, it failed. It didn't fail immediately. It was in service for a while, but it failed eventually after the right abutment got compromised. This is another shot of Sweetwater Dam from the right side. And as you can see, that water is just coming down that right abutment. Notice all the fractured rock on the right side, right bottom of the screen. That's how that foundation of the dam looked. But even then, the engineers decided to go ahead and build it because there was no oversight by anybody other than the owners themselves. 1917 was when the first Dam Safety Act got enacted, but that was very, very generic, saying that, oh, everybody should be aware that there may be some potentials, for failure of dams, so everybody should do their due diligence to make sure the dams are built properly. But there was no oversight by any state agency or whatnot. It was all self-regulatory. Then come 1928. This is St. Francis Dam. This was right after construction. This dam was one of the bigger dams back in those days. As you see, there's some leakage right in the middle of this dam. This started soon after the dam was built, so everybody sort of had some idea that this thing is having issues. But since there was no regulatory oversight, nobody wanted to take the step and say, well, drain this reservoir or fix anything. So the designers of the dam kept believing that everything was good, but meanwhile, there were a lot of telltale signs that things were not good. So this is one of the pictures taken not too far before it failed. So this is basically a concrete structure. This is a cross section and a plan view of the dam. Look at the bottom of this bottom right picture. I mean, the dam is quite thick at the bottom. It's 166 feet wide at the bottom. So that's a good cross section, meaning these dams should withstand everything. But look at this dam now after failure. What the designers did not put effort was the abutments. Just like Sweetwater Dam, the dam itself survived, but the abutments washed away. And once the abutments go bad, this is the kind of things happen to a dam. By the way, there were about 400 fatalities after this failure. This failure happened in the middle of the night, so a lot of people got killed. This is another shot of the dam after failure for scale. Look at the gentleman right in the middle with a cane. And we are basically looking from the downstream side, looking at the reservoir. And because of St. Francis Dam, 1921, that's how we became in existence. And that's the reason we are here today. So we have been managing every dam project since 1929. And the way we worked was we first brought all the dams which were not under jurisdiction into a jurisdiction. And once we did that, we also started looking at all the future dams which were being built. Then come along 1963. So before that, only dams we used to look at were on-stream storage, not off-stream reservoirs. Baldwin Hills Dam is basically an off-stream reservoir where water was being pumped into it, and then it was being supplied to the cities downstream for water needs. So what I wanted to show you with this few pictures is how quickly things can go wrong in a dam. So a dam tender doing his daily walk around December 14, 1963, around 2:20 p.m., watched this little sinkhole on one of the faces. And this is the picture of that sinkhole. It wasn't a big sinkhole, maybe 4 feet by 5 feet wide. That was the extent. But what I wanted to point out was, look at this cracking right here. This cracking was going all along this sinkhole. 2:20 p.m., a few minutes later, look at the size of this hole is starting to increase. And look at the brave soul standing right there next to that sinkhole. I definitely wouldn't do that. Now, as they're draining the reservoir, so immediately they start draining the reservoir, but fissures already opened up. So one fissure is right here on the top, and then other fissures are down here. And by this time, downstream and all the drains were flushed with muddy sediment, meaning the drains got compromised on this dam. And as you see now, the hole is starting to get bigger, and the fissures, which are going up above towards the crest, are getting longer in length. And notice the timestamp on this. This only took about 1 hour. Between 2:20 and 2:25, this is what happened. I mean, the reservoir got dropped from that water line, which you see here, down to this elevation, but the damage was already done. The fissures were opening up, you know, and the downstream drains were fully compromised by this time. And this is what happened at 3:30, exactly 1 hour, 10 minutes since that dam tender saw that fissure. Notice another thing, the reservoir is still being dropped. They were using low-level outlets to drop the reservoir. So imagine if the full reservoir failed under this condition, it would have been very, very bad. But they were able to reduce the volume in the reservoir by using low-level outlets and draining it. But still, this dam completely breached around 3:35, almost 1 hour, 15 minutes later after the start of the first sinkhole. So after that, Baldwin Hills Dam, all reservoirs, which are pumped reservoirs, also became under a state dam safety jurisdiction. And here's a complete breach. And this is on the downstream side. And this is a full breach failure of the dam. So as you see, dams can do quite a bit of damage. Then I want to show you a case of 1971 Lower Fernando Dam. So back in the early days, because it was equipment was not equipment wasn't there, so a lot of this dam construction was done in hydraulic fill ways, where you basically sluice the material between two rock berms and then basically fill up the dam, and then the sediments used to settle in the middle of the dam, and the coarse sediments are on the sides, and then you create your embankment. But the problem with these kind of dams was that they were very liquefiable dams, meaning a small little earthquake will just slide these faces out. Imagine just like a landslide. When the landslide gets saturated, they slide out. That's exactly what happened at the Lower San Fernando Dam in 1971. Here's the picture of what was downstream of Lower San Fernando Dam. On the bottom right of the screen, you'll see a low-level outlet tower. This picture was taken immediately after the failure. One thing we did when we brought these dams under jurisdiction, and once we figured out that a lot of these dams were built with hydraulic fill techniques, we permanently restricted the storage. This dam was always held 10 feet below the spillway crest. So it was never full, because if you're looking at this shot downstream, you can imagine what can happen if the reservoir was full and this dam failed. So in 1971, after an earthquake, this is what happened to the upstream slope of the reservoir. Basically, it just slid into the reservoir. And this was under the full restriction of 10 feet. And this is another shot. Wanted to show you that low-level outlet. Once again, the low-level outlet became critical because as soon as the earthquake hit, we were able to open the low-level outlet tower gates and evacuate as much as we could. So because there were some aftershocks also, but we were able to prevent full failure or breach of this reservoir. Just to go over what are the critical components on a dam. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know it, but I thought I'll just throw that slide in. And so I'll move from left to right of the screen. Left is basically, the first is the crest on the dam, which is typically what we see, the top of the dam. Then you have abutments, which are these groins along which the dam is being constructed. Then we also put tow drains in embankment dams to drain them. Then you see a downstream face, a tow drain outfall, and outlet works. Outlet works is typically a large pipe put underneath the dam, usually set in rock. And then we have an upstream control, which is a drop. In this case, they call it a drop inlet riser. And basically, that's the way we evacuate reservoirs. In other words, this principal way, spillway, or drop inlet riser can be a slide gate kind of control or an outlet tower. That all depends on what the designer's preference is. And then on the right side of the screen, you have emergency spillway / spillway. Typically, we put all our spillways in a hard rock or moderately hard rock, just to make sure if something happens, we do not endanger the dam. So if something happens, usually the spillway will take the brunt of the damage, or it might fail, but at least the dam is still safe, because we do not want the dam to overtop, because then we lose control. And at that point, it becomes an uncontrolled release. This is inventory of all our dams within the state of California, and we have wide variety. But majority of the dams are earthen dams, but you name it, we have every kind of structure. A lot of these dams were built in 1800s, like one of our oldest one was built in 1850. So we have good record keeping of all these dams. So as you see, we have wide variety of dams in our portfolio, but majority of our dams are earthen embankments. I'm going to show you some pictures of how these dams look, different kind of dams look. So this is a typical earthen dam. As you see, the middle is the crest. You see downstream face. There's an upstream side. This one doesn't have any outlet tower, so most likely the low-level outlet is buried. It's inside the reservoir, but there's the low-level outlet pipe underneath. And the pipe probably exits out here. You have spillway on the right side. This looks like a large dam because judging by the spillway construction, this reservoir sees quite a decent flows come through. Then we go over earthen rock, rock fill, and hydraulic fill dams. This is a sort of a rock fill dam. As you see, there's a lot of rock, both on the upstream side and downstream side. And then again, on this one, the spillway is on the right side. This is one of my favorite dams. This is up Highway 108. This is owned by PG&E. This is a pure rockfill dam. Basically, the side hills were blasted, and then the rockfill was dumped, and then the upstream side, there was a concrete liner placed to stop the seepage. On this picture, you see some white water that's on the right side. That's basically where the spillway is. This is another picture of San Fernando, basically telling you this is a hydraulic dam, and that's the hydraulically filled dam, and that was the reason this one failed. And then after that, we go into concrete dams, and we have a variety of dams in concrete. We have variable arch structure, a gravity, constant arch, a multiple arch. So let's look at some pictures so all this jargon makes sense. So this is basically a mass concrete structure right here. You come in and you dump a bunch of concrete, and then you put some steps on it, and there you go. This dam has a spillway right in the middle of it, as you can see. And then obviously there's a low-level outlet. It's probably at the bottom of this reservoir. This reservoir appears to be a county road because from the right side, you can see the yellow stripes of a highway. And then these are different kind of concrete dams. So in the bottom screen, that's what we call multiple arch dam. And look at all those arches. And on this dam, this is an interesting dam, is the left side is the dam and the right side is the spillway. As you see, the spillway is at a lower elevation than the dam, but the whole thing is made of multiple arch. Also, look at the bottom right screen and you see my cursor. This is where the low-level outlets are for this dam. These are probably high-level outlets. There's a probably low-level outlet in one of the middle arches in the bottom. Then on the left top screen, that's a simple gravity structure. And then on the right top, that's the thin arch dam. Typically for a thin arch dam, these are constructed in a very tight spots, as you notice from this one. And they gotta have a good rock formation to tie the dam into. And then this is a roller compacted concrete dam. This is called San Vicente. This is in San Diego. This was one of our bigger projects, which we just completed a couple of years ago. The reservoir capacity used to be 90,000 acre feet, and now it's almost double of that. I have a cool video, which I'm gonna run here for you guys to see how this dam was built. So basically, this is the old dam, and the new dam was built right in front of it, and they were tied together. So I have a time-lapse video, which I'm gonna play now. Sorry, the video didn't play. Sorry, gentlemen and ladies, the video didn't play. But so, and after that, we have small structures like, concrete tanks, slab and buttress, and some crib wall dams. This is a dam built in, this is a LADWP dam built in Burbank called Headworks. This is basically a concrete box. This one is a crib structure. You have a bunch of crib and you put, rocks or whatnot behind it and you build your dam up. This is one of those flashboard structures right in the middle of the river. And these are flexible, meaning you can remove it, drop it, take it away and put it back in every year. This is an old concrete masonry dam, big blocks, just like pharaohs did in Egypt, and you put them in and then you just grout them. One of the things which we are grappling with now is the downstream development of the dams. This picture was taken in 1970s, I believe. This is a Paris dam up in Southern California. It's a state of California dam. So when the dam was originally built, there was no housing downstream of it. There was no issue. And this was a recent picture taken a few years ago. So as you see, the dam which was built without any downstream hazard has now become a major hazard. And that's something which we have been grappling since Oroville disaster. Here's a picture which should show you what happened between 1974 and 2014. And the reason I'm showing this picture that is going to become important because after Orville, we had a legislation passed which basically required every dam to develop a EAP, except the low hazard dams. So this screen should tell you how many dams we have in state of California. So we have about 1,250 dams. Out of those, 204 dams are extremely high. And then remainder 440 are high. Then we have about 277 dams which are significant. And we have about 327 dams which are low. Here I'm going to plot, and so you can see the color coding of these extremely high hazard dams. And as expected, a lot of these are in Southern California, Northern California, in Bay Area, and along the foothills in High Sierra. And now what I did, I plotted some major faults. And as you can see, a lot of these dams, especially the high hazard ones and extremely high, are along these fault lines. This is how our division is set. We have office chief, then we have our own geology engineering branch, field branch. This is where I work now, design branch where I used to work, and then reevaluation engineering branch, which I also worked in years ago. And then of course we have a support staff to support us. One of the things we also do in-house is, doesn't matter if an owner wants to do their own study, we do our own independent studies on every structure within the state of California. So this is an earthen embankment, just showing you an example. And we do our own analysis to figure out if the embankment meets minimum safety standards or not. This is one of the projects which we completed a few years ago. Imagine a swimming pool downstream of a dam filled with kids, and nobody knows what this dam is worth, or is it going to hold together. So that was one of the reasons we evaluated this dam to make sure that the swimming pool is safe, because there's a lot of people in that pool. Another analysis we do, typical standard, slope failure analysis. Everybody in our division is capable of doing it, and all 1,200 dams go through this evaluation. Another way of, and also obviously for some engineering folks in the group, this is how we do our seismic analysis. We put these dams through seismic analysis and figure out if they meet our minimum safety standards. So these are all typical analysis we are doing on these structures. And these are all independent of the dam owners. Dam owners also do their, but we also check and verify. Then the next portfolio group we have is our concrete dams. And so we use different various software such as SAP 2000, LS-DYNA to evaluate these concrete structures. Maintenance inspection. This is one of our biggest job in a division. We inspect all 1,250 dams annually. That's quite a bit of dams. This is one of the shots I took years ago of Donnell's Dam up along Highway 108. I was heading up there to inspect, and this was a cool picture. This is another kind of dams. This is Rockville Dam up in High Sierras, and these are inspected annually. Some of the extremely high hazard dams are inspected twice a year. It all depends if there are any issues we are concerned of. Inspection like this, we will walk the left groin, which is along this side safely, and then we'll walk along the toe, then we walk around the right groin, walk on the upstream face if it's easily available to do, exercise the valves, cycle the spillway gates if they're available, cycle the low-level outlets. This is another small structure. And the thing with us is we look at big dams, small dams, farm dams, and some homeowners association dams. We have a vast variety of ownership. We have Southern Cal Edison, PG&E, and we have LADWP, State Water Resources dams, and then a lot of farming dams. Our inspections always involved walking around the spillway chutes, making sure spillway are in good condition for usage. We walk lots of tunnels, and this is a nice tunnel with not too much water. We have a lot of tunnels where we are waist deep in the water, wading through to check stuff. Radial gates, we have our own team which actually climbs the gates to every so often to make sure that the radial gates are performing well. And also radial gates, we have a special program where every third year, all radial gates need to be cycled in DSOD's presence. This is another shot of the radial gate on the right side. As you can see, there's some leakage. We always cycle low-level outlet controls. This is one of a massive dam with a low-level outlet control being cycled on an annual basis. This is one of the dams we also inspect, which is basically walking up the groin. That's a lot of stairs on both sides to go to the dams, but this is done annually or biannually. Construction inspection. So the division is always involved in the construction inspection of new dams or the dams which are being retrofitted. And this is obviously an embankment dam. This truck is laying a sand filter on the left side. And this is, it's an older project. And so this is the kind of work we always get involved. Whenever the construction starts, DSOD is always there inspecting the work for QC and QA. This is one of our spillway shafts, which we constructed recently. This is a dam where we basically removed the old low-level outlet liners and put new liners. So basically at the bottom right, you'll see those steel pipes. We pulled out the old pipes and installed 3 new pipes and then put brand new slide gates on the upstream side of this dam. Maybe this is where the video will work. I was having issues. So remember I talked about San Vicente Dam? This is the construction of the San Vicente Dam. This is in San Diego area. So the original dam was about 220 feet, but now it's at about 350, the height of the dam. And the reservoir basically doubled. This is all drinking water for San Diego area. As I said, this was the original dam, and now I think the video might play. There we go.
Ram, how many more slides do you have?
I have about, I can skip through some. Am I coming on time here?
Yep.
Okay. How many more minutes I have, Stephen?
A couple.
Oh, okay. I can go through it.
All right, great.
So you see here, the dam is being built in the front, the new dam, and it's being tied to the old dam. We are right now at the crest of the old dam, and then the new dam moved up by 120 feet. This was one of the largest raises in California. We also respond to incidents where we have failures of structures. This is one of the incidents we responded to. I mean, we respond typically 20 to 30 incidents on a reservoir. This is a failure of a spillway slab. I'm going to try to rush through it, guys. And here we are fixing it. This is one of the biggest things. We do not allow over the embankment spillways. And this is just the kind of failures we see. And there's a leakage on this bottom right. You see the reservoirs leaking. Top right, spillways failing the walls. Obviously, bottom left is a Oroville, and then top left is where you have leakage through the embankment. Stephen, I think I'm gonna probably go towards the end now because timing is gonna be an issue.
Yep.
So that way. So one of our biggest challenges right now is this slide. I wanted to make sure I can show this. This structure. So right now, majority of the dams in California are between 50 and 75-year-old. But guess what? Majority of our high hazard dams are at that age. Look on the top, look on the left side, and you'll see that majority of our extremely high dams are about 70, 75 years plus. So this is one of our challenges which the division is facing moving forward, that how are we going to manage our portfolio from this risk assessment scenarios. This, high risk aging infrastructure, resource and funding limitations. And other thing we are running across is the dam safety expertise. Most of the people who worked in the industry have obviously retired, and the talent pool is quite shrinking. And this is it. That's me, Param Dhillon. I'm been working with the division for a while, and if you guys have any questions and concerns, here's my information. Feel free to take a picture and reach out to me with any concerns or questions. Thank you, Stephen.
Great. Thanks, Param. That was great. I see there's a couple questions in the chat and people are answering. I start off with 1,500 for the number of dams, but let's feel free, everyone, to add your questions to the chat. And then after Sarah's presentation, we'll have times to take questions for both of the speakers and we can carry on. So Sarah can talk till a little after 1, and then we can carry on till, for another 20 minutes or something like that, till maybe 1:30. So, but first, we got a message from our sponsor for today's conference. You got it, Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So yeah, Stephen showed our list of sponsors for the conference this year when we started up, but one of them is Valley Water. And yeah, we really appreciate Valley Water's support. All the money that we get donated basically goes straight into our student scholarship fund. And so when sponsors sponsor CALMS, they're sponsoring dam research and they're sponsoring water quality research. And so I'm just going to play a quick video. It doesn't have any audio, in case you're wondering.
We'll have a moment of silence for Valley Water.
Cool. So thanks again to Valley Water. And what better time would that be to turn it over to Sarah?
Yes, who works there. And I can introduce Sarah, and Sarah, you can deal with the presentation stuff first while I'm doing this. So Sarah Piramoon is an associate water resource specialist at Valley Water's environmental planning unit. She was born and raised in the Bay Area, where she is, studied conservation biology at San Jose State University, right near where she is. And she's been fascinated ever since by water systems. She's been working on the Anderson Dam seismic retrofit project since 2017 and is highly motivated to see it through and not to see through it. So thanks, Sarah, for offering to speak and following up Param on the other side of the regulatory equation, or oversight equation.
And thank you for having me. And I did really appreciate Param's presentation because it highlighted a lot of the challenges that we're dealing with at Anderson Dam. It is a dam that was built in 1950, and it is facing a lot of those challenges that he highlighted. So I'm just going to start by introducing it. It was built in 1950. It is made out of earth, and it is located in an earthquake fault zone. It is also our largest reservoir in the Santa Clara County. It holds 90,000 acre feet, and it's bigger than all of our other reservoirs combined. And I think we started our investigations in 2010, but by the time 2012 came around, we had done enough seismic analysis and geotechnical studies that we knew that we needed to retrofit it. And that is when we initiated the Anderson Dam Seismic to Retrofit project. So we have been working with the Division of Safety of Dams for quite a long time. And I know there's a big jump in these bullets from 2012 to 2020. What were you doing? We were doing a lot of geotechnical study, advancing designs, and I hate to say it, but it seems like the more studies we did, the more challenges we found. And then on top of that, in 2017, we had the Oroville spillway failure, which highlighted the vulnerability of infrastructure all over the state. So coming out of that big water year, all of the dam safety regulators were nervous, rightfully so. And in addition to having state oversight on the Anderson Dam, we also have the oversight from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which we commonly call FERC, because we love our acronyms. So on February, and they are a federal lead agency. So they're federal lead for the dam safety side, as well as for our environmental permitting side. And by the way, that's my background. I'm not an engineer. I am a biologist and working on the permits. So it got really exciting on February 20th when we received an order from FERC to implement interim risk reduction measures immediately. I think there was a concern that we weren't getting ADSRP underway fast enough. And if we had another 2017 event, we could have a catastrophic failure or have to evacuate a good portion of San Jose and Morgan Hill, which would be a scary and difficult undertaking. So from that order, we initiated the FERC order compliance project, which allowed our board to declare an emergency. It also cleared the way for a CEQA exempt project, which streamlined some of our environmental review. And so it was initiated in June of 2020, and a year later, we are actually getting started on the interim risk reduction measure, and the primary one is the Anderson Dam Tunnel Project. So I'm gonna. All right, and so this is just an overview of what our dam looks like from the top. Some of those same components that were introduced earlier. So it's our earthen embankment. And you can see this is actually where two creeks converge, and they would go through here. It's called Coyote Creek. And so underneath this earthen dam is some liquefiable material. So that's one of the big concerns. We also have a spillway here that doesn't meet modern spillway standards. And our outlet pipe is also vulnerable to fault rupture. So some of the existing components that we're going to be retrofitting. This is another view of the dam from the top. And you can see that the embankment is, it's pretty big, and the larger retrofit project is going to have to scrape all the way down to bedrock, get rid of all the liquefiable material, and then rebuild it. It is going to take quite a few years, and it's compounded by the fact that this needs to remain safe throughout construction, because there are quite a few people who live downstream of this dam. There's our spillway that will be retrofitted to post-Oroville standards. And here is our low-level outlet works. So we currently have a low-level outlet works on the other side. It's going to be moved to the other side. And the temporary diversion system, it uses the same tunnel as our low-level outlet works. And this is the part of the project that we started now as a part of our interim risk reduction measure. It is a massive tunnel that goes through the side of the abutment and underneath the dam, almost creating like a big bathtub drain that could be used in the event of an emergency. And after the dam is constructed, or as a part of the final dam construction, that diversion structure will be repurposed as a high-level outlet works, which is a redundant system to our spillway. And I do have a video here. I know, hopefully this will work, but we recently did start construction on the Anderson Dam Tunnel Project. It's pretty monumental. And this video has some great footage of, what it looks like from above, and gives you that context of all the downstream communities and the constraints that we're working with, as well as, highlights the involvement that we've had and the support we've had from our elected officials. So let's hope this video works.
Sarah, is there meant to be audio?
Yes. I just heard that you guys are not hearing the audio.
Right.
Okay, hold on one second.
I think it's when you screen share, you have to select the box that says share audio also. And I'm not sure
Thanks.
if you did that.
I'm going to.
You might have to unshare and then share again, potentially.
Okay. Let's see if this works.
It's always good to have these kind of ceremonies because this is the start of something big.
Shovels in the ground. A critical project to protect the public and secure Santa Clara County's water supply is underway. Strengthening Anderson Dam, which improves the largest reservoir in the county. The Anderson Dam seismic retrofit project will prevent it from slumping in the event of a large earthquake by rebuilding the dam built more than 70 years ago.
Anderson Dam was a state-of-the-art project in 1950, but it was built near a seismic fault line. That is why we need to make sure it can withstand a large earthquake to the best of today's standards.
A strong earthquake could damage the dam, causing a catastrophic release of a 30-foot wave of water that could inundate land more than 30 miles north to San Francisco Bay and more than 40 miles south to Monterey Bay, including much of Silicon Valley.
At Valley Water, we are committed to protecting the community from the risks of earthquakes and other emergencies, like the severe drought currently impacting us. And that's why fixing Anderson Dam, which is our largest dam, is our top priority.
Built in a long, deep natural gorge east of Highway 101 in Morgan Hill, Anderson Reservoir is named for Leroy Anderson, the first president of Santa Clara Valley Water District. Anderson stores local rain runoff and water pumped in through the Central Valley Project, an essential source of drinking water and groundwater replenishment.
Anderson Reservoir is actually our largest of our 10 reservoirs. It can actually, at 90,000 acre-feet, hold the other 9 reservoirs within its footprint. So it's obviously a critical part of Valley Water's water supply portfolio.
The reservoir can store enough water to serve about 1 million people for a year. Today, it sits nearly empty. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission ordered Valley Water to drain the reservoir to 3% capacity to reduce seismic risk during construction.
So for the next 4 years or so, you can expect the water level to get no higher than it is now. And then probably year 5 on, we'll actually drain it so it's bone dry so we can do the embankment reconstruction.
The first step, fast-track construction of a larger outlet tunnel, giving us greater control over water levels, increasing public safety. Then we'll rebuild the dam from the ground up.
When we originally started the project, we thought it was a 3-year project.
The retrofit project has expanded 3 times since it began in 2012. Initial analysis indicated the dam didn't meet modern-day safety standards. Then in 2016, studies revealed previously unidentified fault lines, meaning more extensive work was needed. Then came 2017, the Oroville Dam spillway failure. In the wake of that crisis, new state standards required Valley Water to replace the spillway at Anderson Dam. Valley Water is working closely with state and federal regulators to modernize the dam for the long term, while minimizing impacts to ratepayers.
There's actually over 13 agencies involved in permitting this project. It's been a monumental lift, and everyone understands the criticality of the facility at this point. It needs to get done. We can't have this just kind of sitting out there, 1, empty, and 2, as a risk.
Beyond seismic safety and water supply, The retrofit helps prevent and reduce impacts to the environment and endangered fish. As part of a settlement challenging our water rights, Valley Water will restore habitat and provide water for endangered fish.
As part of this project, we will be improving fish barriers downstream in Coyote Creek. We'll be restoring some areas that provide habitat to fisheries and wildlife. Once the project's completed, we're going to be in a better position to be able to provide more water to the fishery in addition to providing water for water supply.
The project is expected to take 10 years, with the first few years to be spent constructing the new outlet tunnel and the next 7 to 8 years to completely rebuild the dam.
This is truly not just about what's happening here, it's the impact it has for many, many miles around here. And ultimately, it's about our water safety, our water quality, water storage.
So this is a regional project with regional protection. And I just want to thank the district for taking on this gigantic public works project.
It's a public project that's going to keep the community safer, that's going to protect our water supply, that's going to create jobs, and this can be a model not just for our county, but for the state and the country.
Oh, I'm very proud to be part of this project. This is a once-in-a-lifetime type project.
It's the most important project for Valley Water today.
All right, just give me a second while I figure out how to get back to my slides. Okay, so back to the technical pieces of it. So we received that FERC order compliance project last February, and the video kind of showed it. It is the first part of it was to draw down the reservoir to the lowest point that we could, and that is, we call it the dead pool, or it's elevation 488, but it's basically the lowest point that we can drain it with our existing intake structures. So we've been able to maintain that elevation since last December. We had a dry winter, so it was I wouldn't say relatively easy, but we were able to do it. Sometimes this reservoir can fill up really fast, and that is part of the reason why FERC really wanted us to get started on this tunnel project as fast as possible. And what you can see from this side view here, or I guess this is also it's a overhead shot with the cross section here. The existing outlet is over here. That's going to remain functional and continue to release water to Coyote Creek. But meanwhile, we have a contractor on board who is starting this project that is tunneling through the side of the dam and creating this new diversion outlet structure and a new channel that will allow us to release higher amounts of water. So the tunnel will release up to 2,000 CFS, cubic feet per second. And our existing outlet only releases 500 CFS. So it's quite a bit bigger. And it would also be seismically safer than our existing outlet in the event of an emergency. And in addition to that, there's some other risk reduction measures about stabilizing the bank, because as we draw down the reservoir, there's some old historic landslides along the rim of the reservoir that we will be stabilizing as a part of this project. And similarly, there's a little erosion rill up near the existing intake structure that will need to be stabilized. And because this is such an important part of our water infrastructure system in the Santa Clara Valley, the avoidance and minimization measures that we included as a part of this project are astronomical. Like they're pretty vast, because this reservoir is so crucial and critical for providing groundwater recharge, providing groundwater supplies, and maintaining fisheries in Coyote Creek. So some of the other, and I probably could do a whole presentation on our avoidance and minimization measures, but one thing that we're doing, and this is a schematic of just our avoidance and minimization measures that we've proposed as a part of this emergency undertaking. So we have our Anderson Reservoir here, and if I'm not sure you all know, but there's also another reservoir upstream of Anderson Dam called Coyote, and that one is actually even older. And so Anderson has always been operated to catch anything that Coyote may, if Coyote were to fail. So we have a really big reservoir normally, and we also normally have imported water being released to the creek. And without Anderson, now that Anderson is drained, this imported water becomes the lifeline basically for the fisheries and the groundwater recharge and the groundwater dependent ecosystems all throughout Coyote Creek. So this is we have an existing outlet, or I would say an existing source of imported water that we release right below the dam. And as a part of this project, we are proposing some chillers along this line, which would actually chill our water so that it is within, the threshold for steelhead. So as this water goes through the pipeline, it can get quite warm and exceed, the lethal tolerances for fish. And so we are getting ready to construct some chillers along this line. The downside with chillers is they are, it's pretty energy expensive. It's energy intensive, and it can only handle so much water. So it would reduce the inflows to the creek. And so normally we might see 30 CFS in this reach, but we have to reduce it down to 10 CFS. And as a part of that, with only 10 CFS being released here, we would not be able to meet our recharge and water supply needs. So a coupled project that is an avoidance and minimization measure to Anderson being offline is a Cross Valley pipeline extension. So we were proposing another input of imported water further down so that we could meet our recharge needs, because this is a huge, an area that's really important for recharging the aquifer for this part of our county that is 100% reliant on groundwater recharge and groundwater wells for their water supply. And adding to that, there's, because of the recharge it being so critical in the Coyote Valley, there is another avoidance and minimization to replace an old dam with a bladder dam. Currently, this Coyote percolation pond is a place where we impound water so that we can get the maximum recharge within Coyote Creek. And it requires an excavator to install flashboard dams. And once the tunnel, the Anderson Dam tunnel, is constructed, it would basically overwhelm the flashboard dams, and we'd have to pull them out all winter, which would compromise our groundwater recharge. So what this figure is showing is it's all very connected. So our engineering teams and our ecological teams and permitting teams are really trying to find solutions for getting this project done with as little harm to the fisheries and the aquatic ecosystems as possible, while maintaining dam safety and groundwater recharge. And so with the FERC order, it really split our project into two different actions. So we're in this Anderson Dam tunnel phase, and they just started construction on the tunnel. It's going to be another 3 years that we expect construction to happen on the tunnel itself. And meanwhile, while that is all happening, and we've gotten all of our permits underway, we are doing the environmental review and the permitting for the larger reconstruction project, when we will actually take the embankment down, and it will be, scraped, all the liquefiable materials scraped out and the spillway replaced. So that would be starting in 2024, and it's going to continue all the way to 2031, with the reservoir being back online in 2030. So this is a 10-year outage that we are, just getting started in. And the drought has definitely not made things easier for us in Santa Clara County. And for those of us who work in water, it's on the forefront of most of our conversations. But we're trying to get it done as fast as we can. But it's still just getting started. So I with that, I think I'm going to hand it over for questions. I hope you enjoyed a little snapshot of where Anderson is right now.
Thanks, Sarah. So we got a couple things first. Mark, can you give me the control? Can I screen share? Yeah, it looks like I can. Hold on, let me do this. Okay, you guys all have to see this, the CALMS store. And I got to give full credit to Matt in Southern California who put these together. Visit the store so you look like you work on a lake, not like you just crawled out of one. All kinds of great stuff there, and you can get to the store through the website. Great gifts for friends, family, and co-workers. And I believe we're giving gifts like this to all the presenters today, this week. So thanks to both of you for doing that. Okay, so now it's after 1 o'clock. Some of you are limited in your ability to participate in something like this all week, but we want to go till as far as 1:30 if there are questions. So you can ask either or both of the speakers and turn your audio video on especially if you finish lunch and you're presentable, and ask your questions. So I'll try to lead this by not sharing my screen, and we can all see each other. And also be sure to check click the chat button and icon at the bottom, and you'll see a little window with the questions that people have in there. So the first one we can, and also there's a sponsor bingo. I see the link in there. Don't forget that. Alex Horn just had a comment that a dam is half a lake with a hole on the bottom. One of the points with that, I presume, is that it's not like a bowl shaped. It's like half a bowl shape, and then you got something stopping it. And the other is the water can leave from the bottom versus the top or other things. So thanks for sharing that one. And the 1,500 or 1,250 or whatever the number was for Param, those are the ones under your jurisdiction, right? There are more in California that it's probably more than 1,500, which is my guess, that are smaller, that you don't like. Your jurisdictional limit is something like 6 feet and certain number of acre feet storage, right?
Correct. So yeah, we have both height and storage restrictions because we really do not want to have every single pond under jurisdiction. So certified dams, we have about 1,211 dams under our jurisdiction, certified. There are about 20 dams or so. We are trying to bring them under jurisdiction because, they were built, they were built either earlier, a long time ago, and we didn't know about them. So we call them illegal dams. So we have about 20 of those, which we're trying to bring in.
Thanks.
But as far as the number of total dams in the state of California, sure, 1,500 plus is up right number.
Yep. And this could be for both of you. Sarah, you were pointing out that you're also under the FERC jurisdiction, but that's not always the case, right? Sometimes it'd be the Corps of Engineers and maybe some others, and they also have different standards or criteria for what they do or don't regulate. FERC, I presume, is for if it's power generation.
Correct. So Anderson Dam has a very small hydropower facility at the bottom of the dam, and that was built in 1980. And from then on, FERC was the lead federal agency that had oversight over the dam. So FERC is only involved when there is some kind of hydropower plant associated with the dam.
All right, great. So Param, there's I don't know if you can see the chat as well. Fidel had a question. Are they built the same way? I'm not sure if it seems like you answered that. You showed the pie chart and photos for several ones. And are you researching new ways for updating, improving dams for safety, such as the project that Sarah has? So does DSOD have a research branch or fund research, or how does dam research happen?
Right. So DSOD, we are a premier agency with pretty much in the whole US, where pretty much everybody who's looking to get some expertise comes to our office. Yeah, there's always improvements to technology, but end of the day, the dam is built just like 100 years ago, but we are getting better at it, meaning we are understanding a lot more aspects of a dam. But the basic structures are still the same how they were built 100 years ago. And as far as, I showed that pie chart, and you saw majority of the dams are embankment dams, but we have, concrete dams, arch dams. Correct, yeah.
And I have a follow-up question. I realize you mentioned the risk analysis that you do internal, regardless of what the dam owner may be doing. Are those reports publicly available, or is this sort of an internal analysis, or what?
No, those are our internal analysis, and as a regulator, that's what our forte is, that owners always submit their calcs and their design, but we always check them against our guidelines and criteria.
Great.
Yeah, and those are not open to public.
All right. And then Sarah, there's a question for you. For such a massive rebuild project and concern for steelhead, why is a fish ladder not being installed? Is this a habitat sort of ends at the dam, doesn't go upstream?
Correct. So this is considered a high passage dam, meaning it's not feasible to build a fish ladder for a dam of this height. We have looked at the feasibility of other things, and with current technology, the best case scenario would be a trap and haul facility. So it's and at this point with steelhead in Coyote Creek, we're actually really just working on getting them to the dam. There's downstream passage impediments and other challenges. So all the restoration activities that we're focusing on to support Anderson is really getting the habitat better below the dam. And there's another settlement agreement that is tasked with adaptively managing steelhead beyond that would be potentially looking at trap and haul down the road.
All right. And I have one, unless I see another one up there, another question about for the redesign and whatever other changes for Anderson Reservoir, is there any consideration or changes to address any water quality concerns? So for a lake manager, operational changes or multi-level withdrawal structure, anything like that?
Yeah, so it currently has a multi-level withdrawal structure, and we would be implementing the same flexibility. It just would be seismically sound. So that and in addition to that, I think I highlighted that it's going to have a high-level outlet works, which is a redundant spillway. So we would have that concrete one, but by having a secondary option, it gives more flexibility in the event that there is an earthquake and it needs to be drawn down quickly. And then in terms of water quality, I think the water quality will be greatly improved when we can fill the dam back up. But right now we don't have water. So that's our challenge.
The quality is great because it's not there.
Yeah, I guess.
We got it. Let's see. Okay, another question came in. I think this is from Mark. What are the largest permitting and logistical challenges for these sorts of rebuild projects?
Well, I can take this from the Anderson side. I'm sure Param has his own insights, but and I think one of the the video clips, there's 13 agencies that we are trying to cross the finish line, hand in hand together. That means we're getting, our Endangered Species Act coverage and 2 dam safety regulators, and we have air quality to be monitoring. And we have to maintain public safety through all of this. So I think it really is just the complexity of this project, because it is constrained by human development and human needs for water supply. I think that is our biggest challenge is getting the dam safety and the environmental stuff done all at the same time, because they both have their processes, and if one gets out in front, it ends up leading to rework, but we're making headway.
Param?
Well, Sarah is right. I mean, obviously, regulatory environment is quite vast. In the United States, this includes the state and federal laws. But one of the challenges we come across quite often when we work with the owners is just the logistical nightmare of taking a reservoir offline. Water is more expensive than gasoline, pretty much, if you look around. And trying to take that much water out of circulation, meaning while the projects are being built, it's becoming a regulatory nightmare. So a lot of these projects are now being rebuilt with basically the reservoir standing behind. And what that does is the cost. The cost is becoming very high, because we are trying to keep the reservoir still full and fixing the dam. So those are the 2 challenges we are facing moving forward.
I guess on that same note, oh, sorry, I'm kind of hearing myself echo, but on that same note, I was wondering, in instances where, you were mentioning that there are a bunch of different dam owners that range from like homeowners associations to large water districts. Mm-hmm. And so how are these projects typically funded? And have you ever had an instance where funding was an issue, where there was a high priority retrofit project that the landowner just couldn't afford?
Well, funding is definitely always an issue, but most of the bigger projects are owned by utilities or agencies. So funding after a certain thought is acquired. But for reservoirs or dams where funding is an issue, or they can just fix it, and if we believe the reservoir, if the dam is not safe, we have a tool called reservoir restriction, just like San Fernando. We basically restrict the reservoir to half the capacity so that the owner can come up with some funding for the next 2 to 5 to 10 years to fix. And what's happened also, there's some state and federal legislation where there is some money coming available, like Prop 1E, I believe, has some money. And FEMA also has some grant money, which they issue to small dam owners. Then USDA has a program of farm loans where they can use these loans, which to smaller folks, so they can build these projects and make a repayment plan. And NRCS is another federal agency which helps the owners with the engineering cost. Yeah.
Lots of options.
Yep.
Good. There's another question from Joe. I think mainly for Sarah on this one. As part of the agreement to maintain a minimum flow for steelhead downstream, or is there already such an agreement?
Yeah, so as a we've entered into an agreement in 2003. It was a settlement agreement that that basically we'll be able to implement it after the retrofit project is completed. So through the environmental review process for the retrofit, we're also incorporating these flow regimes for steelhead. And it will require us to revise our water rights, but that is part of the process. Not only are we retrofitting it, but we would be revising our water rights so that we can dedicate some amount of water to steelhead rather than it all going to municipal sources, which is it currently is all dedicated to groundwater supply and human uses, basically.
Oh.
So that is part of the bigger project.
the chiller for the imported water part of that?
The chiller is strictly an avoidance and minimization measure because we know that imported water gets hot every summer. So if that's what we're relying on to keep the creek wet, we are going to be chilling a portion of it before it enters Coyote Creek.
Okay, I'm not seeing, there you go. Just saw a message from, I can't see the name, Chris, somebody. Has Valley Water started talking to the water board, state water board and Fish and Wildlife and all about the water rights chances? Maybe it means changes yet. Starting that sooner or later is important.
Yeah, so it's we actually started this a while ago, and then it got tabled so that we could really, because we need to finish our environmental impact report. And so that they can't take any action until we have that completed. So that is our critical path for all of our permits, including changing our water rates.
Great. Good to know. You got 13 cooks in the kitchen, regulatory cooks. Great. Any more questions? This is your last chance. Everybody's on mute and off video. All right. That's it then for today. We have for the rest of this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there are additional presentations in the same sort of format with a couple speakers and then wrap up Q&A at the end. And again, tomorrow at 4 p.m., there's a business meeting with a separate link to that one. And outside of this, we have a newsletter that went out recently, and in the spring, usually we host some webinars on similar talks like this over a lunch hour, and Mark Selos has been part of that. So look forward to seeing everybody around the rest of this week. And thanks again to Param and Sarah for taking the time to prepare this material and share all your knowledge and interesting work with everybody. It's very much appreciated. And after this week, you'll be able to